hope you're all doing okay. Hope everyone is keeping safe and keeping well given everything that's going on. So for today's video, I would like to talk about one of my favourite things to talk about, and that is books. As you can see from behind me, I really like books and I really like reading. So I thought I would do a quick rundown of my fave LGBT books that are out at the moment and why I enjoyed them. So let's go on to the first one. So the first book on my list is Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. This is genuinely a game-changing book that every woman needs. And I think one thing it does really well is it's really inclusive. So it's applicable for anyone who feels like woman is part of their gender identity. If you are non-binary but identify with parts of womanhood, if you are a trans woman, if you are a cisgendered woman, it's very inclusive. It looks at fat phobia, pretty privilege. Florence Given has got a gorgeous sense of narrative voice and doesn't come across preachy at all. One thing it has got is beautiful illustration. The artwork is gorgeous, and I think Florence also sells her prints and stuff. And yeah, I'd really recommend it. It's a gorgeous non-fiction book, and I kind of came out of it wanting to listen to a girl boss playlist and, you know, destroy the patriarchy, so highly recommend. The next book that I have read is Tales from the City by Armistead Maupin. This is the first book in the series. The series actually inspired a TV show. I think the first version of it was on Channel 4 in like the 1990s, and then Netflix have just done an adaptation of it. But this is the first book in the series. I have yet to acquire the others, but I thought it was really, really nice. It was a good read. It is slightly different to the Netflix series. So the Netflix series is set in the present day, whereas this, I think, is set in like 1974. It basically follows the story of different LGBT people and an LGBT safe space for them, and it was just a really nice read. So the third book that I would recommend, I am currently 183 pages in, so take my recommendation with a pinch of salt. If anything happens in it that is potentially problematic or poor representation, I haven't read the last 83 pages or however many pages there are left. It covers kind of the idea of first queer crushes and that questioning without it being a huge part of the story. So the queer characters that are in this book, it just, you know, they're queer and that's part of their identity. I won't go say too much because it is a bit of a spoiler. But it also follows Frances, who is the lead character in the book. It basically examines her experience of what happens when she meets the creator of her favourite podcast / YouTube show. So if you're into internet culture and things like that, it's a really nice read. And I know that Alice Osman, who's the author, has done a lot of other novels that I've seen a lot of people on Instagram say is really good representation for queer people. The two mainly being Loveless, that's supposed to be really good asexual rep, and Heartstopper as well is supposed to be a really nice queer men love story. So I've not read those yet, but after reading half of one novel, I definitely can see myself purchasing more Alice Osman books. The fourth book on my list is The Gender Games by Juno Dawson. I read this a few years back, and it was one of the first books I remember reading that had that was one, non-fiction, and two, went into the trans experience from a more personal note as someone who has gone through that experience. So it says on the front, Juno Dawson's The Gender Games, the problem with men and women from someone who's been both. And then it also talks about her experience as a trans woman, particularly as a trans woman within media and as someone who has been a teacher. Highly recommend checking her out. So the fifth book that I would recommend is The Art of Being Normal by Lisa Williamson. This again was probably one of the first books I remember reading that had a trans main character. And I did read it a few years ago, but it was one that kind of stuck out in my mind as a really good exploration of young trans people. I think this follows 2 people in school, and I'm pretty sure it's British. From what I remember, I think it's set in like either the outskirts of London or the outskirts of Manchester. I can't fully remember, but yeah, I read this a few years ago. Thought it was a good book. The next one is actually a book that is based off a musical, and it is The Prom by Sandra Mitchell. So The Prom is slightly different to the musical. The musical is probably one of my favourite musicals of all time. I'm really sad that it closed as early as it did on Broadway, but Ryan Murphy is making a film out of it. It is coming to Netflix in December. The book is lovely. It's a really short little book, and it follows the story of Emma and Alyssa. For anyone who's seen the musical, it is slightly different. So Alyssa's coming out is done via YouTube, and the celebrities see her video on YouTube. So slightly different to the musical, but it basically follows the story of these 2 queer teenagers and some Broadway stars, and it's a really cute little book, and I would highly recommend listening to the soundtrack because the musical is beautiful. Hi pals, so I was just editing this video and realised that the ending of the video footage isn't there, so I thought I'd just re-record it. The last book I was talking about was Love, Frankie by Jacqueline Wilson, and this is the first book that's come out since she came out. It's beautiful, it's really light, the copy is beautiful, like the dust jacket has a little pride flag, and it follows the story of Frankie and Sally, and it's just a really nice little book. Would highly recommend. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to see more videos like this, please do comment, like, subscribe. I really enjoy making them, and yeah, thank you very much for watching. See you later.